Hey guys, just wanted to check in. I know it's been our first day away from the classroom and I wanted to see how you guys were doing, and hopefully you've had a good day at home resting with your family. I just wanted to share with you a few things that we did at our house today. We read a few chapters in a chapter book. My little boy is 10, so he wrote down his multiplication facts, and we've been working on some of his math lessons that his teacher sent home. And Emily Claire is also home with us right now, and she's working on putting her alphabet in line. So she's been working on an alphabet puzzle for me. And I just wanted to read a story for you tonight so that you could have an opportunity to talk to your parents about the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. And the book I chose was Cloudy with the Chance of Meatballs. So let's get started. All right, this story was written by Judy Barrett, and it was drawn by Ron Barrett. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table this Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we could eat, and Grandpa was doing the flipping. Seconds later, something flew through the air, headed toward the kitchen ceiling, and landed right on Henry. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. That night, touched off by a pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall tale bedtime story ever. Across an ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 small ocean, lay a town of chew and swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores and houses and trees and gardens, a schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. But there were no food stores in town. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain, and it never snowed snow, and it never just blew wind. It rained things like soup and juice, and it snowed mashed potatoes and green peas, and sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would never hear a prediction for the next day's food. When the townspeople went outside, they just carried their plates and cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way, they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and usually there were, the people took them home, put them in their refrigerators in case they got hungry between meals. This is my favorite page. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down, and a brief shower of orange juice with a low cloud of sunny side-up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast, butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time it rained milk afterwards. For lunch one day, frankfurters already in their rolls blew in from the east about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby, and the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans with a drizzle of soda that finished off the meal. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times, with occasional ketchup with periods of peas and baked potatoes. They were followed by a gradual clearing with a beautiful jello setting in the west. It's funny, it looks like the sunset, doesn't it? The sanitation department, that's the trash guys, of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job. It had to remove all the food that fell on the houses and things that fell in the sidewalks and the lawns. The workers cleaned up after every meal and fed all the cats and dogs. Then they emptied some of it into the oceans for the fish and turtles and whales. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for the people's gardens. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worst. Spaghetti ties uptown. One day there was nothing but gorgonzola cheese all day long. The next day only broccoli, and it was all overcooked. The next day there were Brussels sprouts with peanut butter and mayonnaise. And another day there was a pea soup fog. There's the broccoli and the cheese and the peanut butter and Brussels sprouts. They could barely find the rest of the meal in the fog. The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. The people were getting frightened, and violent storms were blowing up frequently. Awful things were happening, but on Tuesday there was a hurricane of bread rolls, and all day long into the night there were soft rolls and hard rolls. There was white bread and rye bread and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen before. It was terrible. The sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up. To help people out, people piled up as much bread as they could in their backyard. There was a storm of pancakes. One poured one morning, and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school, and no one could get it off because of its weight. So they had to close the school. I think I would like mine to be a blueberry pancake. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly. Everyone ate themselves sick, and at the end of the day, they all had a stomach ache. There was an awful salt and pepper wind accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess, and there were seeds and pulp everywhere. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared. They couldn't go outside. Most of the time, the houses had been so badly damaged by the giant meatballs, the stores had to be boarded up. There was no more school for the children, and a decision was made to leave the town of Chew and Swallow. Look at the pickle in the house and the ice cream on the ocean. Alas, the people glued together giant pieces of stale bread. Look how they're working together. I love that. in a sandwich style, and they used peanut butter to glue it together. They took absolute necessities with them, and they set sail on their rafts for a new land. Look how they're all setting sail. Swiss cheese is their ship's sail. After about being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town, which welcomed them. The bread had held up really well, and they made houses out of it for themselves. The children began to go to school again, and the adults all tried to find places for themselves in a new world. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at the store. They found it odd that food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes and cans and bottles. Meat that had to be cooked was kept in large refrigerators, and nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs, and no one ever got hit by a hamburger again. Nobody dared to go back and chew and swallow to find out what had happened. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I even remember his good night kiss. The next morning, Henry and I woke up, and as we were looking out the window to see snow falling, we ran downstairs for our breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter, that's a square of butter, atop the hill. And we could almost smell mashed potatoes. It does look like mashed potatoes. The end. Now, they were really not in the town of Chew and Swallow. It was just a bedtime story their grandfather was taking. But if you were in the town of Chew and Swallow, what would you want it to rain? I think I would want it to rain, maybe coffee. I know that's not a choice that you would like to make, but I would also think I would like for it to rain maybe cheesecake. That would be delish. Or maybe even some pasta Alfredo. That sounds like a good dinner choice for me. I want you to share this with your family and tell them what you would want to happen if you were in the town of Chew and Swallow. What would you want for breakfast, lunch, and dinner if it was falling from the sky? And have a talk with maybe your mom and dad about what happened in the beginning of the story and how the characters changed as we got to the end when they were able to leave the city after they were getting bombarded with massive hamburgers and huge spaghetti meatballs. That was awesome. So I hope you're having a good day, and I wish I could see you tonight, but we're gonna just come back here hopefully each day for a new story, and I hope you have a good day tomorrow. If you're at home learning with your family, or if you're with friends staying so that you can have a babysitter for the afternoon while your parents are working, just keep learning, and I will see you later. Have a good night.